This is the Mets Postcast, your instant game reaction for the New York Mets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Mets rallied for 2 in the 8th inning and then walked it off in extras to push their home record this season to an incredibly impressive 25-7. Welcome in to the Mets Postcast here on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel and in the Locked On Mets podcast feed. Your Postcast host, Chris Schubert, here with you after each and every Mets game throughout the course of the season. And one that was trending in a bad direction for the New York Mets ends with a walk-off. It ends with a Gatorade bath for Jeff McNeil and Steve Gelbs. And the Mets, they just keep on winning. And we need to talk about the offense in this one, as has been the norm here on these postcasts. A little bit different tonight for the Mets because for a large stretch of this game, it did not seem like the rally was going to take place for New York, but the 8th inning and the two guys that you expect to be at the center of almost any Mets rally this season, well, they were at the center of that rally, and it led to the 2 runs that tied things up in the 8th, and so that's where we'll start the postcast.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Watching the game tonight, it felt like the team was in a little bit of a malaise. You go down early, you trail 2-0, you're then down 3-0, and you claw back a couple of runs there in the second and the third. And then after that, it just felt like they never got anything going. They had a stretch of double-digit hitters in a row without getting on base. They just never seemingly could start a rally to get a game that was right there in front of them. You know, the Mets were in this game. It was 3-0 in the second. It was 3-1 after the Mets hit in the second. It was 3-2 in the third. It was right there for the taking. But I don't know if you felt this while watching the game, but it just never felt like the Mets were going to be able to get something going. Just not the highest quality of at-bats. Just not necessarily a team that looked like a rally was in the cards. And then all of a sudden, seemingly out of nowhere, with 2 outs in the 8th inning, the Mets magically get things going. They were doing absolutely nothing up until that point. So we'll do the play-by-play of the 8th inning when the Mets were able to score the 2 runs that tied this game up. You get Mauricio and Lindor to both strike out. So you're staring at Marte up with 2 outs in a 4-2 game. And Marte draws a really impressive walk. He's down 0-2 in the count after swinging at the first strike, or swinging at the second strike, and then looking at the first one. So 0-2. Takes a couple of pitches, then fouls one off, then works the next 2 for a walk and gets something going. And then the rally starts. And the rally starts with Juan Soto putting a ball in play. That Hassel makes one of the more peculiar plays you're going to see a fielder make. Ball hit right in front of him. All he has to do if he's not going to catch the ball is just keep it in front of him to make sure that Marte is unable to score from first. But he lays out, dives, bounces past him, and then at that point, it's academic that Marte is going to score. Soto could have been on third with a little bit more hustle out of the box, but he thought Hassel was going to catch the ball. And Soto gets the second, and now Pete is up in a spot where, up in this game, hadn't gotten a hit yet. He has been the MVP of the squad. He's come through in these clutch moments before. Runners in scoring position, hitting with 2 outs. It has been a constant bugaboo for this team. It's been a constant topic of conversation for us here on the postcast. Second pitch of that at bat, Alonso drives one to deep left field, bounces it off the base of the wall. Soto scores with ease. Appreciate Alonso not getting thrown out until after. Soto crosses the plate to tie the game, and then the Mets were back, and you knew with Edwin Diaz up in the 9th inning, with the way that he had been going as of late, that the Mets were going to have a really good chance to win this one. He gives you the 1-2-3. 9th inning looks impressive in doing so with the 2 strikeouts. You don't score in the bottom of the 9th. Okay, we're on to extra innings, and boy, we have the cap on tonight, the tip of the cap, even though it's virtual here, to Reed Garrett for the job that he did. Now, Everyday Mets tells me that the Locked On MLB Game Night folks do not like the Mets BP or spring training hat. Now, Everyday Mets, you seem to be a regular viewer over of the Locked On MLB Game Night. Could you give me a specific on what the complaint is, just so I can address it maybe in the social media clip that I produced for the show a little bit later. We'll get a little tongue-in-cheek jab in there for you if you're so inclined. So you want to give me some information on what they're saying, maybe I'll try to sneak it in to my social media clip that I send in a little bit later on. But Garrett comes in, contact, moves the runner over, no problem, got that first out. And then the strikeout of Lowe, just going to the bread and butter and just getting it done, and then gets the fly out. And Reed Garrett, what is his claim to fame? What is his strength? Stranding inherited runners, and that's exactly what you needed him to do in that spot. You don't want to ask Edwin to go a second inning. It basically absolutely removes him from being able to be used tomorrow. Garrett gets the job done, and McNeil makes it easy. What is Jeff McNeil known for? Well, he's known for swinging at the first pitch, even though in these spots we'd rather him maybe work a count a little bit. In this time, swings at that first pitch, drives it into the gap. Acuna scores with ease, and the Mets are walk-off winners to move to 43 and 24, and we'll just keep upping the count here on the program. A new season-high 19 games above 500 for the New York Mets as they just continue. This is what good baseball teams do, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's the Washington Nationals, and you'd rather it look very much like the last couple of days looked for the Mets against the Colorado Rockies, but good baseball teams, dare I say great baseball teams, find a way to win these games where things are just, they don't seem like they're going to get out of first gear. You're in it, but you don't really feel like you're in it. And you just have your star players show up in the big moments, and Soto and Alonso tag teaming it there in the 8th inning. And again, the 2-out hitting is so important. This Mets team has to figure out a way to hit with runners in scoring position and to come through with those 2-out spots. And so tonight, they did that with those back-to-back hits. Jeff McNeil is the hero. The Mets are now on pace for 104 wins this season, and the good times just keep on rolling in for the New York Mets. We'll talk about Griffin Canning and his start. Rough day at the office for Griffin Canning. Also, the stuff to keep an eye on. Want to hear from you on that, what things you are keeping an eye on out of this game. I've got the running list as well here. So we will get to all of that here on the other side. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House, the reliable way to order products online. They've got an easy-to-use website that is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, they've got a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands. You're going to find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Perhaps you need help with an order. Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service. You're always going to talk to a real person. And for those trade pros out there looking for that extra edge, how about their free Trade Master program? It offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every single order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Ever check your bank account and wonder, man, where did all of my money go? There's dining out. There's online shopping. There's entertainment. It is so easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. This isn't just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan those long-term goals. Managing money with your partner, smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts. You can set those goals, and you can stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Back here on the Mets Postcast, Locked On Mets YouTube channel, the Locked On Mets podcast feed. Chris Schubert with you, recapping a walk-off win for the New York Mets as they defeat the Washington Nationals 5-4 in extras, courtesy of a Jeff McNeil walk-off double. Griffin Canning got to start for the Mets, and a lot of optimism going into this start for Griffin Canning, considering what he provided the New York Mets his last time out. 6 scoreless innings against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and you throw 6 scoreless up against that lineup on the road in LA, you're feeling really good about where Griffin Canning was at. Not as well tonight he fared against the Washington Nationals. The final line for Griffin Canning, 5 1/3, the 7 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. And it's a pretty basic tenet of being a starting pitcher. You just can't get leadoff base traffic. It's just always going to set you up for a disaster. And the first couple of innings of this game, all Griffin Canning did was put himself into trouble immediately. C.J. Abrams leads off the game with a double. In the second inning, Alex Call leads off that inning with a single. In the third, James Wood leads off with a single. So instant trouble, instant base traffic right away for Griffin Canning over the first 3 innings. Finally had a clean frame there in the fourth. In the fifth, allowed the home run to Abrams after getting the first out. And then that was about it for him going into that 6th inning. After he walked somebody, it was a easy decision for Carlos Mendoza to go to the bullpen. And so, yeah, we'll kind of use this as a transition point. We'll keep an eye on Griffin Canning. I saw a great Anthony DiComo tweet during the game that Griffin Canning has a 4.84 ERA over his last 5 starts. That includes the 6 scoreless against the Dodgers. So is that the outlier, or is what has gone around that start the outlier? I'm not ready to give up on Griffin Canning just yet, although you know the reinforcements are coming, and that is one of the things that we want to keep an eye on. Sham and I had a great rehab appearance today, 2 2/3 scoreless innings, so much better than his first time out, had more up downs, went a little bit deeper, and so he's slowly making his way back. And so, yeah, we're always going to keep an eye on Griffin Canning starts with that closer eye now, knowing that the reinforcements are coming for the Mets. But at the end of the day, the Mets got to win, and we can now just nitpick a little bit and hope that Canning can make those adjustments and get back to the pitcher that we saw at the beginning of the season. But as Thomas points out, Canning did enough to keep them in this game. After the 2 runs in the first, he kept it close enough for the Mets to be able to draw back in it and be in a position there in the 8th inning to tie the game and then ultimately walk it off in the 10th. Other things to keep an eye on, man, credit to the Citi Field crowd tonight. Didn't that feel like a playoff atmosphere in the 8th inning? Place going nuts for Soto's double. Place going nuts for Alonso's tying hit. That felt like a playoff atmosphere. You could feel the buzz shaking. I always try to use Gary's call and how hard it is to hear him over the buzz of the crowd when a big play happens. And that's exactly what you heard tonight. The crowd was just it was booming. It was loud, and that, great to see on a Tuesday in the middle of the week against a sub 500 Washington team. It's not like the Braves or the Phillies are here. Not like the Dodgers are in town, the Yankees. And it's not a huge rivalry. It is a division rivalry, but it's Washington. Man, it was a great atmosphere tonight. And kudos to that crowd for getting into it late and rallying and playing a role in the rally that the Mets were able to put together. Juan Soto, when he hits a home run and he has that little Soto swagger, when he kind of stares at it a little bit, it's special. I got to tell you, I really enjoy when he knows he gets one and he kind of just showboats a little bit and he watches it. Now, at the time, it was a home run when they were trailing. We're able to enjoy it a little bit more now that they were able to come back and win, and he had a big role in that with the double that he hit in the 8th. But yeah, there's just a little extra swagger to those Soto home runs, especially those opposite field shots that I like. Looking up at the broadcast here, the postgame show, 6th walk-off of the season for the New York Mets. So continuing some of the trends that we saw in 2024 with this team, being able to thrive in the dramatic, and they did it again tonight. Justin Garza, something to keep an eye on. 98 miles an hour. I mean, where does David Stearns find these guys? He just continues to find pitchers that can come up and get productive outs. First, it was Jose Castillo this season off of the heap for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and now it's Justin Garza in a cash trade with the Giants, and he comes in tonight throwing 98, and again, got some big outs for the Mets when they were trailing to keep the score at 4-2, directly setting up what we saw in the 8th inning for the comeback. So credit to Stearns. He just finds a way to just find guys that can help this bullpen out. So let me make sure. Playoff light crowd, Manaea 2 2/3 scoreless, the Soto swagger on the home runs, and Garza, all that I had in the notes here for the stuff to keep an eye on as the New York Mets just keep on winning. And yes, we'll continue to keep an eye on it. It was a good night across the board for the New York Mets. Let me just check the final scores. Atlanta loses in Milwaukee 4-1. The Cubs beat the Phillies 8-4. The Nationals, Miami was the only team that won. So the Mets pick up even more ground in the National League East as they now extend their lead to 5 games, 12.5 ahead of the Nationals who they're playing, and now a whopping 14.5 against the Atlanta Braves, 14.5 against the Braves. And as we sit here right now, wrapping up the postcast, the Mets' 5-game lead that they have in the National League East is the largest division lead in the National League, the 6th largest division lead in all of baseball, only trailing the 7.5 games that the Tigers are up on the Minnesota Twins in the American League Central. Mets just found a way tonight. That is the memo that I have for all of you watching this tonight. They went through a stretch of, I think it was 11 or 12 in a row set down by Nationals pitching. They just stayed in it, and their big bats came through in the moment. And so for all those who are worried about Juan Soto, I don't think you need to be worried about him anymore. MVP on a night where he was an offer, came through in a big spot. And man, Jeff McNeil has really started to get hot for this team. 3 home runs over the weekend in Colorado, including the multi-homer game on Sunday, now leading into his 3rd career walk-off. And he had multi-hit game tonight as well. That's going to do it for us here on the Mets Postcast here on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel and inside the Locked On Mets podcast feed. Appreciate all of you joining us here on the program. If you are new, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so that you can get notified when we go live after each and every Met game throughout the course of the season. You're listening to us over in the podcast feed. Join us live. You can share your thoughts, live reactions. Think of this as your hangout spot the moment the Mets are done in action. We are back here again tomorrow night to break down the New York Mets in the 2nd game of this series, and hopefully they can rack up another series win by defeating the Washington Nationals. David Peterson takes his 2.8 ERA to the mound against Jake Irvin of the Nats, and we will be here to recap it all the moment it concludes. The Mets walk it off in extras, their 6th walk-off of the season, extending their lead in the National League East, extending their lead as the best team in the National League, and the good times keep on rolling for the New York Mets. Have a good one, Mets fans.